Hello, I'm Lee Shuba, and I'm here today to teach you all how to do a kinetic stabile floral arrangement. This is a creative design that has a fixed base, but the design implies motion without actually being in any kind of movement. The direction that you choose for your floral material is what's going to determine how much movement you imply. And it can be diagonal, horizontal, vertical, any direction you want, but it should be flowing and dynamic. I used to do these arrangements with the feeling in the back of my mind that I was watching flowers blowing in the wind and then arranging the flowers in the position they would take, which does imply movement, but it's not the only way to do it. As a creative design, it requires that you use a minimum amount of flower material. It also requires that every component of your design, the container, any extra material you add, and the flowers themselves all imply motion. I think it is a fun arrangement to do. I've always enjoyed it because it is very creative and there aren't many rules except not too many flowers, and it is easy to do when you have a design theme behind your choices. This year we are looking at how to interpret musical compositions, songs, through flower arranging, and this month we are looking at the drinking song from La Traviata, an Italian opera. I'm not an expert on opera, but I know this song. Most of you will, and before you start, please watch the video. It's fun to watch, and it's even more important to listen. It has a lot of energy, which makes it easy to translate into motion in a flower arrangement. A drinking song in opera is called a brindisi, and what it really implies is there is one person, the lead singer, who will raise a glass as a toast, and then the chorus comes back from the crowd in response to that. And you'll see this clearly in the video. My inspiration for my arranging today is the crowd scenes, because they are very dynamic, they are very full of motion, and they're fun. So that's how I chose my containers as well as my flowers. In terms of flowers, you can choose flowers or containers first. I have a lot of containers at home. You all who have ever been to a flower class of mine probably remember how many containers I just keep around because I never throw anything out. So that's a choice I made. But it makes it easy on a day like this. I looked for flowers first. They were harder for me to visualize. I wanted to buy calla lilies, and I could not find them, even at the wholesaler. So I went with this bloom, this stem, which kind of looked like a goblet. It's actually a much taller static form with a lot of leaves. I chose a filler that had white tips to it that I thought kind of looked like champagne bubbles. And I thought I could get somewhere with this stuff, but I ultimately rejected this because they're overly complicated and they're kind of dull in color. The next thing I did was move on in my shopping, and I looked at tulips. These tulips, they were straight up and down. I wanted them to curve over in like raising a toast, and they mostly did this one, but this one overdid it. So I'm going to have to, I liked that color. I thought it was pretty dynamic, but I'm going to have to choose a new stem. So I have them. I want all these greens to be going in the same direction. They're not really cooperating. It's not really that important. I just thought it contributed to the effect of motion. Then I decided I needed them to look even more in motion, and I used a weight to put them on to give them this curved horizontal direction, thinking that might put them in better motion. I don't know if it needs it, but in the end, I thought, well, it really looks like they're just tipping out, dumping out their champagne. So I thought, well, I should put it on the other end so that it looks like they are raising their glasses, which it kind of does, but I'm not sure I really need it. What I did think I really needed was another component to add to the sense of motion. And what I found for that were, let me grab them here, seed pods from Japanese anemone. And they really look like you have just popped the cork in a bottle of champagne. And they also imply movement. So I definitely went with that. They're really lively, and they make a big difference to me in this arrangement. Getting them to behave the way you want is never easy, and when you add an extra form, it makes it harder. But you persevere, and eventually you get where you want to be going. I'm going to kind of try to use this one to bend this tulip, which I just picked, so it's not bending the way I want it to. I'm going to take this down. I think it's kind of overly complicated. Okay. I hope you can all see this. It looks to me like a chorus raising their glasses in a champagne toast. Okay, the next one I'm going to show you is a little different. I should say something about glass, because all of these are glass containers. I chose glass containers because they seem more contemporary to me, and they also are what I had on hand. And I wanted to show this, accentuate the motion in this arrangement by using glass and components inside that implied motion. This is copper wire that I just twisted into circles and stuffed into here, which made it very easy to manipulate the stems in these calla lilies, which I eventually found. So to me, this just looks like a crowd all making their toast. Again, I thought about adding other dimensions. I actually, let me get them. Found some seed pods from allium, and I painted them metallic copper, but they weren't bright enough. So then I sprayed them with gold glitter paint, and unless they're in really bright light, they really don't show up as being very dynamic. And that's all I'm going for here, is adding another dynamic element to not only imply motion, but also I want them to look like champagne, sort of. You don't want anything to absolutely look like anything, but you want it to be an impressionistic take on the scene that's in your mind. So that's what I was hoping for here. I'm not sure this actually works. These look kind of dull, so I'm going to try one more thing. I am always eager to add more plant material, which is a big mistake when you're doing creative arranging. But these calla lily leaves are full of motion. So I feel like that's a good excuse for adding them. It's such, it is, I think they look better with the flowers. Usually that's true. If you're adding stems from the same flower, they do go together well. And there, that is all I'm going to do, but I think it really helps the motion in this. What I meant to say when I talked about using glass arrangements, besides picking them stylistically, you need to think of the fact that when you put water in, it magnifies what is underwater. And if you don't want it to become part of your design, you need to fill it all the way to the top. If you have a line going across and some is magnified and some isn't, it becomes part of the design, which may not be what you want to happen. Okay. My third design. You see this water here? That doesn't look great. I'm not going to fill this one up. I spilled it bringing it in. But it already looks like I'm trying to say something with different water levels, but I'm not. What I want to do here in these glass files is recreate a crowd scene where people are turning to each other to offer a toast. So while this isn't exactly flowing movement, it's definitely going to imply motion. But it's going to be kind of a crowd frenzy rather than a flowing motion. As the people in the crowd turn to one another. That's what I'm imagining. The toast has been raised and they are answering it to each other as they turn about from face to face. That's what I'm doing. So while this does not look like the wind is blowing them all in one direction, in my mind it definitely looks like they're moving. And I'm just going to keep adding it as long as it looks dynamic to me. I wouldn't have chosen all this purple. I wanted some other colors, but I never did find cut callas, and I had to buy the actual plants, so that limited me somewhat. I think I will. Well, I might try those pods that I painted, because you can paint anything that's dead in a flower arrangement. You can't paint live material. But this metallic paint looks dull enough that it kind of matches the container here. So I think it will work better here than it did the last time I tried to use it. I'm just being somewhat random in this, but all I'm trying to do is put in a design element that looks like champagne. So to me, this is a crowd all toasting each other. And the last thing I want to show you is actually another test tube arrangement. I don't know. It just, drinking songs made me think about glassware. and I have a lot of it. And this one looks like a crowd. This is an arrangement that can be, these tubes can be moved in many different directions. They can be in a straight line. I don't want them in a straight line. I want them crowded in together like they are at a party responding to a toast. And talk about easy. This is just gonna happen. I am just dropping them in and going for the same vibe I went to in the last arrangement, which is that this is a group all smiling and turning to each other with a glass of champagne and toasting. So I want them turning in different directions. I don't want anything about this to look static. This is a pretty color, but it's, here, the stem is a little loose. So I'm just gonna, this is, there are not many choices going on here. I'm trying to distribute the color evenly so that your eye moves from one direction to another, which helps establish a sense of movement. And I'm trying to vary the direction they face, and to end up, I'm going to add the anemone again, because I think it's a great way to emphasize movement, and champagne. Oh, come on, I'm working backwards here, so. I'm trying to fill this space visually that looked a little skimpy. And I will put some to the back just to make your eye travel through the design. I don't want it to look flat in any way. I hope you can see these little pods, because they really do add to the design. Anyhow, there's no one way to do this arrangement. I hope that you all see that by seeing this quick rundown of possibilities, and I hope you all have fun doing this.